Hi there, I'm Siobhán, one of the journalists up at Manx Radio. Welcome to the latest edition of our newscast. This time, a local charity is questioning the amount of time it's taking to get government clearance to build a state-of-the-art cancer support centre here on the island. Mannin Cancers Support Group raised the £2 million needed to build a Maggie Centre on the grounds of Nobles Hospital through fundraising, and has the planning permission required. However, it's waiting on the disposal of the land to be signed off by the Department of Health and Social Care. David Gawne is the president of the Mannin Cancers Support Group. He told me they had hoped to get spades in the ground after TT earlier this year. Here's the full conversation I had with him.
Yes, we've been working on this initiative now for the last 3 years, and the initiative has been brought about really by the passion and the fundraising ability of the Mannin Cancers Support Group, who have really got into this in a big way. But we're not doing it because we feel we want to do it. We're doing it because it responds to a very real need which we've identified with people of the Isle of Man, and that is that if you go to most cancer centres in the UK, you will find that they've got what is called a Maggie Centre attached to it. Now, Maggie Centres are not run by NHS trusts, they're not run by hospitals, they're all voluntary organisations. And they create an informal atmosphere where people can go, chat, meet peers, exchange ideas, meet with professionals if they want to, get a lot of information in a very relaxed and informal atmosphere. And I think one of the things that sticks in my mind is that when we were doing our research into this and we were talking to families, I was talking to a gentleman who was probably in his early 40s, with 2 children, and his parents were still alive, living on the Isle of Man, who had been diagnosed with cancer. They weren't quite sure at that stage where it was going, but fortuitously he's made a good recovery. And at that time, Manx Cancer Help had an office in the old schoolhouse at Tremode, and they had converted that into a sort of a centre, an holistic centre. And he said to me, he said, going in there, he said, it's like stepping out of the world. He said, it's like going into an oasis where I can be myself, where I can talk to my family if we don't want to talk about things at home, when my parents can come in and talk to people. And he said, we just get so relaxed, we can sit and have a cup of tea, we can do whatever we want. And it's just really somewhere which takes away the stress and strain. And that's what this is all about. But in addition to the Maggie Centre type part of the hub, we are developing a new Macmillan Cancer Support Centre in conjunction with Macmillan, which will replace the existing facility in the foyer of Nobles Hospital, which does an excellent job, but obviously it's in a very cramped position. And also it's a bit like a goldfish bowl, because anybody sitting having a cup of coffee can see who's going in and coming out. And we're also creating a new psycho-oncology service a psycho-oncology service in association with Minds Matter. Now, most people who are diagnosed with any form of cancer obviously have psychological issues, whether they're waiting for the result of tests, whether they're having treatment. There are all sorts of pressures on them. And what we are doing here, we are creating a new service which will provide that psychological support. That, again, is being produced by the charity, Minds Matter, which is a professional in that area. So we're teaming up with them and with Macmillan to create this new centre. We originally looked at siting it somewhere else on the hospital site, but when we came to do the plans, we discovered that actually wasn't feasible, because it would have virtually meant redesigning the whole of the front of the hospital, which we don't think people would have really been very keen on. So we took that away, and we were looking around, and then we were offered by Manx Care this particular piece of land, which is directly in front of the hospital, and where it is located is very, very important, because if people are looking for that support, they need it when they need it. They're not going to get in their car and drive half a mile and then find it. Where we are, it's going to be, as you come out to the front door, it's straight in front of you, so you can just discreetly go in. It's designed so that the entrance is screened from the public. You can go in, pick up information, make arrangements to talk to somebody, come out. If you're coming in from the car park, you've got to pass it. So it's there. And that was what we were told by people who wanted the facility, was that it needs to be near the hospital, it needs to be near the hospice, but it needs to be outside any clinical area without the hustle and bustle, so we can just relax. And the things that go on in the Maggie Centre, or people can go in and have a cup of tea, they can do some baking, they can make cakes, they can have a little family party if they want. It's their space, and one of the things we're creating within that is the kitchen, and the kitchen really is going to be the hub of the Maggie Centre. People can go in, sit around the table as you would at home, and just chat about things. If you want to come and see somebody about benefits, then that can be arranged, and what we would probably have is somebody coming up maybe one afternoon a week from Social Security, where people can come in and have a chat about that. We've got other charities involved. We've got the specialist cancer charities involved who will be there. We've got Crossroads Care. We've got Live at Home. We've got Age Concern. We've got the Salvation Army Debt Counselling Service. We've got Crews. It's designed to cover everything really that anybody could want, and we're not just saying it's specifically for it's limited to cancer patients. It obviously is a cancer centre. But we are saying that people with motor neuron disease, Parkinson's, etc., have the same issues. So they can come and get that same help and support. And if people can't get out and about, then we've got arrangements with Live at Home, for example, who do regular outings for people. They can join those outings. If somebody's on their own and they want to get out and about, or they've used to driving and they can't drive, and they don't want to be a burden on their family, or a perceived burden on the family, they can go out in one of those groups, have a spot of lunch, a whole raft of things. So it's a centre for everybody to use and to be informal. And as I say, it's something which we've, over the last 3 years, have discovered more and more. And I think if you look at the response on social media over the weekend, people have demonstrated that this is what they want. And it's something which not only that they want, because there's a big difference, I think, between what you want and what you need, but it is needed. And I accept that from the health services point of view, it's not one of their priorities. They've got all sorts of other priorities. But that's what the third sector is for. We're there to do things that they can't. We wouldn't be doing this if government said we can do it, or we might help them to do it a little bit differently, in the same way as the breast unit and the radiology unit, where government were able to provide the basic service, but the charity has made that much better and created equipment in those centres which will do things that the basic NHS service wouldn't. And that's not decrying the NHS at all. It's saying, look, you're doing a fantastic basic job, but we can do it a little better. We can add to it. And that's what we're doing here. We're adding a new dimension to cancer services on the island.
So just to jump in there, I mean, you described it just before as like the government kind of doing the bread and butter and the charities putting the jam on top, you know. What's the stumbling block that you've hit here? Because obviously, like you mentioned social media over the weekend, we're trying to explain to people what the delay is really. Like, what is the stumbling block that we've hit?
I think, obviously, one of the things that's got to be taken into consideration is, quite rightly, that this is government land and government regulations have got to be adhered to, and government have got to do their due diligence and make sure that we are a proper organisation, that we're properly set up, that we have got the money. Because nothing could be worse than us saying, yes, we're going to build this, we get it half up, and then suddenly we'd run out of cash and say we can't afford to finish it, or we say, well, we've built it, but we can't afford to run it. So they need to make sure they're doing that. But it's just, I think it's the length of time that it's taken. There have been a few hiccups where we were led to believe in the early stages that we wouldn't need to apply for specific planning permission because it would be covered under the development order for the hospital. Then we discovered that that wasn't the case, and that only applies to work which has actually been carried out by the DHSC itself or Manx Care. So we had to apply for full planning permission, which was fair enough. But we got all that. That's all happened. And the stumbling block at the moment seems to be getting exemption from government financial regulations. Now, government financial regulations, as I understand it, says that if government want to give this, and because we're on a 99-year lease, government regard that as giving the asset away, because obviously they can't use it during that period. There are certain things that have to be done, and that's what we're waiting for at the moment. Is for we have to prove, for example, that we shouldn't pay the full rent for it. DHSC are talking about charging us a peppercorn rent of £250 a year, which is absolutely fantastic. But they obviously have to be happy that what we're doing fits in with what DHSC do, that the government are not just giving a valuable piece of land away. And obviously, too, it's in such a high-profile position in front of the hospital, they have to be happy with everything. Now, the plans are absolutely amazing. we gave the specification to our architect, Mark Savage, who came up with this absolutely fantastic drawing of what was required, and we've then worked with him and with others on moving this forward. And it nestles very nicely into that site. It's not, and we wouldn't want it to be a bricks and mortar building. It's a lot of glass. It's a lot of open plan. There are some trees on site. Now, there have been comments made about why are we falling those trees. Those trees some of those trees have to come down anyway, because a tree report showed that they are not in a condition where they can be sustained. The issue we have, of course, is that those trees have to be fallen into the site. So once we start building, they can't come down. So we have to get those down before we can start building. That is aggravated by the fact that whilst we have a licence to fall the trees, legislation protecting birds and bats says that you can't fall those trees during the nesting season. So effectively, if we don't get the trees down by February, then we can't do anything with them until August next year, which is obviously a big issue. We have a very helpful and very understanding contractor. But obviously, if we do start getting more delays, then those delays could be proportionate with an increase in the price, and that is something obviously which we're conscious of. We have got a fixed price contract, because obviously we wouldn't even think about doing this if the cost could escalate during the course of the works. So we have agreed a fixed price contract. We just want to get on with it and get it open. It's a 52-week build. We had originally hoped to get started after TT. We always knew that was a bit ambitious. That was always, but we had hoped we would get on site within August. We're now hoping that we will get on site in this month, because before the building can commence, there's got to be some site development work done, including the trees, and that will probably take 3 or 4 weeks. So what we're hoping now is to be able to start building in early mid-January. That would then enable us to finish the building works in January 2025 with the ability to actually start using it, have it open in Easter 2025, and with the formal opening probably in summer 2025. So it's all happening. We as I say, we have the money. We have some of the money in the bank. We have a funding arrangement with the funder to cover the rest. All the plans, etc., have been scrutinised by the quantity surveyors who are happy that the price is value for money, because obviously as a charity we want to produce something which is worthwhile and something which is attractive, but on the other hand obviously we can't afford to waste money. So all the plans have been fully scrutinised by the quantity surveyors who've said yes, this is the right price. Yes, there will be some good quality fittings in it, but they won't be over the top. But we feel it's got to be somewhere people can relax and feel at home. But we're trying to keep the costs, and obviously our advocates have given that. Our advocate Jeremy Callan has given his time free of charge, so he's been very helpful as well. And before we actually started on the formal plans, Mark Savage did about 2 years' work without charging us anything. So a lot of people have put a lot of help into this. We have been working with a committee within Nobles Hospital, within Manx Care, to bring this forward as well. What we've got to do now is we've got to come up with the building plan. Now, at the moment, we have the building plan, but obviously it's not populated with dates. It's week 1, this will happen. Week 20, this will happen. What we have to do now is, when we know the start date, is to put actual dates in there and commence our communication, because we want to communicate with people in the hospital, anybody who goes to the hospital, and that's any one of us, so they know what's going on, so they don't suddenly walk up one day and find that the building work has started, or for some reason there's a bit of building work going on, which means for a few days part of the pavement is closed off. We want people to know in advance what's going on. We will do everything we can to minimise disruption to the hospital. We have undertaken a traffic survey of when it is built and when it is finished, as to the impact that will have on the surrounding areas. The building itself will have within its own enclave the parking space, and the rule will be that people turn into the road which goes into the hospital from the main road, I'll rephrase that. People will come into the hospital along the main road, and they will then turn left up towards the hospital entrance, and the entrance to the unit will be on the entrance to the centre
will be on the left.
Will be on the left-hand side, and people will go in there. Now, the rule will be that when you come out, you can't turn left and go up to the hospital. You have to turn right and go back down onto the main drive. So we don't want people going up and causing all sorts of issues at the hospital itself. That can get clogged up enough as at the moment. So the rule will be, if you come out of the unit, you turn down right and then go out through the main entrance. You don't go up to the hospital, because that would just cause more confusion than exists at the moment. So we've looked at all that. We've had proper traffic surveys done. We've had health and safety surveys done. I think we've probably got surveys and coming out of our ears.
It sounds like it. I mean, that's it. I think it sounds like obviously the charity's done all of its due diligence. The government, obviously, like you say, has to do theirs, but it is just this timescale. I mean, you took the question out of my mouth of what the timescale was of spades in the ground to opening, and it just sounds like a fantastic project. I think, it's just been nice to see it get moving. You know?
I mean, all we want to do is provide a facility for the people of the Isle of Man. In fact, I'll go as far as to say we're not actually providing the facility for the Isle of Man. The people of the Isle of Man are providing the facility in the same way as they did with the breast unit and the radiology unit, because they have provided the money. We have the responsibility of being entrusted as stewards of those funds, and as such we have to produce something which is good and something which is endurable. It's not something that's going to close down in 12 months' time. That's why we negotiated a 99-year lease. We could have gone for a shorter lease had we wanted to, but we felt, this is something that's there permanently, and that will be there long after the time that we've gone. But that's why we wanted to make sure that we have got all sorts of situations in place. And I think if you look at the balance sheets of the charities, I think it proves that they can raise more than enough money to maintain this. So we're not looking to be a drain on government, either in terms of capital or revenue. And as I say, we want to work with government. We've always had a good relationship with government and Manx Care, and we have a good working relationship with Manx Care. They are involved with this. They're working with us. The Director of Infrastructure within Manx Care is one of the people who is on our, if you like, building committee. So we are working with them. But I suppose that the problem is that the charity gets frustrated. The charity is used to working at a certain speed, and I have to say the fundraisers for this charity, they work at a phenomenal speed. So that's the issue. But hopefully we will get it all sorted, and once we get the lease signed, we will then be able to get on site and get going.
As always, we have approached the Department of Health and Social Care, and specifically Minister Laurie Hooper, for comment on this matter. There'll be an update on our website as soon as we have one.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Little Manx Radio newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.